Okay, you guys, this story is actually insane. Like the kind of insane where you have to sit down, take a deep breath, blink twice, and ask yourself, am I the dramatic one, or is this genuinely as unhinged as it looks? Because the level of audacity we're about to unpack, it should honestly come with a warning label and maybe even a small government issued pamphlet explaining the risks. Imagine this for a second. Stephanie Jenkins. Yes, that's Stephanie. The same woman who needed a co-signer in 24 hours like she was auditioning for a speedrun version of adulthood. The same woman who begged the internet for help, who cried on live, who said God was testing her, who said the motel was temporary back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, suddenly finding the time, the energy, the motivation, and the emotional stamina to attack the people reviewing her housing application. No, because hold on, let's pause. The people whose entire job, their full profession, the thing they clock in for, the thing they get paid to do is to testify whether she qualifies for the home she claims she's ready for. She went after them. The audacity is so loud it echoes. When I saw it, I genuinely had to put my phone down and stare into the abyss, into the space, because I couldn't believe it. I still barely believe it. But then again, this is Stephanie we're talking about. And the wild part, it only gets worse from here. Like, buckle your seatbelt because the road ahead is bumpy and the potholes are personal choices. But before we fully nosedive into the meltdown, let's rewind because the build up to her calling out actual property management staff, people who could literally approve or deny her entire living room, is one of the most unintentionally comedic sitcom worthy episodes I've ever watched unfold in real time. Honestly, if someone added a laugh track, I wouldn't even question it. So Stephanie goes online because at this point it's practically her oxygen, and she posts this long, emotionally charged paragraph about how she's trying to leave things in God's hands. And listen, the way she weaponizes God's timing every time she wants to dodge accountability, besties, even God is probably up there like, girl, please don't drag me into this. She's irritated, she's frustrated, she's tired, she's exhausted, which honestly, same, but not for the reason she thinks. All because the people reviewing her application are, in her words, dragging their feet. And I am sitting here like, Stephanie, sweetie, you're talking to the people who literally hold the keys to your potential home. Have you ever heard of not biting the hand that feeds you? She's out here gnawing on the whole arm. Let me read her post exactly as she wrote it, because the dramatic build up alone deserves a standing ovation. I really try to just keep it in God's hands. He knows the timing, He knows what we need better than we could ever. But I can't help but get irritated when we're going through the application and review process. Why do people drag their feet to give people such life changing answers? It's just a job to the one processing the applications. But to the individual that put the application in, it's the chance for a new beginning, a home that provides security and comfort for a family who's tapped the F out on living in a motel. At the very least, when you expect me to respond within 24 hours, why can't the same being expected in return? I just have to have faith and trust in God's timing. I know when we get our home, it's going to all work out.
I don't know why me and other people on here keep telling Stephanie Jenkins to get out of the hotel, get a house, get an apartment, blah blah blah, whatever. Um, because she's not going to. I don't think she is. Not anytime soon. Because cosplay and being poor in that hotel room um brings in a lot more money. Just her viewers having sympathy for her, feeling bad for her being in there. Yeah, I don't think she's going to go anywhere for a long time. And as long as she still has viewers, and she does, who take up for her and tell her that she's doing a great, great job, um, she's not gonna change. She's making money the way she is, so why would you change something if you're doing good that way?
Now, on the surface, fine, emotional rant, very inspirational quote of the day energy. But once you remember the context, oh, suddenly the whole thing becomes a comedy sketch, like full sitcom opening theme music. She's accusing the people processing her application of dragging their feet. Meanwhile, these folks are probably property managers, leasing agents, landlords, housing officers, people who have to dig through every dusty chapter of her and Drew's housing history. And we're not talking small things like a lead phone bill. No, no, no. We're talking previous evictions, a bankruptcy, bad credit scores that probably scream when you open the report, a history of late rent, living in a government subsidized apartment without being on the lease, 9 months of motel living, a whole homelessness timeline, possible third party verification that take actual time. Like, imagine reviewing all of that, trying to make sure you're not about to hand a house to the next chapter of Tenants from Hell, and then getting yelled at by the very person whose track record is the reason for the delay. If I were the leasing agent, I would have taken my lunch break early. Meanwhile, Stephanie is talking like she's the one special snowflake applicant in America trying to survive, as if there aren't hundreds, yes, hundreds of families applying the exact same time. Many of them with squeaky clean credit and not a single eviction haunting their paperwork. But Stephanie, oh no, she acts like the universe personally selected her for mistreatment. She thinks the reviewers all clocked in, opened the application list, saw her name, and said, let's ruin this Wednesday. And that is where the entitlement really starts to glisten. Because here is where the irony becomes so loud, it practically screams. Like, it's standing in the middle of the motel parking lot with a megaphone and a reflective vest. You cannot miss it. Stephanie is accusing those workers, people whose literal careers depend on being organized, detail oriented, and responsible, of dragging their feet. Meanwhile, she and Drew have been dragging their feet for 9 whole months, just trying to leave the motel. 9 months. 9 months. At this point, even an overdue library book gets returned faster. And the way she talks about it, besties, she says it with her whole chest. Like, she hasn't been sitting comfortably in that motel room making TikToks, blocking commenters, deleting criticism, and arguing with strangers instead of actually looking for housing. They had money, or so they claimed. Drew even said on live proudly and confidently that they had more income than most people. He said they were overqualified income-wise. I'm over here blinking like, then why didn't you use that money? If income wasn't the issue, if the money was moneying the way he says it was, then riddle me this. Why don't they get a trailer home? Why didn't they get a manufactured home? Why didn't they get any form of stable shelter months ago? Something with walls that aren't connected to a motel ice machine.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my family out of here. I don't care what I got to do. I'll get a second part-time job. I don't care. I don't care right now. The PS5 would be retired.
Why would Stephanie and Drew not do this all along and just now want to work a second job, quit playing PlayStation, and Stephanie agree to work? That's because they need a co-signer. That's why. They want to make things look great. They want to sweeten the deal for whoever wants to co-sign for them. If y'all remember yesterday, I told y'all that Stephanie and Drew said that they got approved for a home, but there was a contingent to that. They needed a co-signer. So Drew went live last night and they actually asked their supporters and viewers to co-sign for them. And during this live, Drew promised to work a second job, quit playing PlayStation. He said, man, I'll do whatever I've got to do to get my family out of this situation. He said Stephanie will even go back to work part-time, although she's breastfeeding. Why now, though? Yo, I believe it's all because of this. Will they actually go back to work? Or will they actually work a second job? Will they actually do all these things? Who knows? But someone out there is probably going to be gullible enough to co-sign for them, not knowing that all the things that come along with it, not knowing that when they don't pay the rent or when they get evicted again or whatever may happen, that they're going to be the one responsible for the bill this time, not the resilient Jenkins. I just want to know, do you think that Drew and Stephanie are actually going to uphold these promises, or is this just something to sweeten the pot for whoever may be gullible enough to co-sign for them? Also, Drew was asked, why doesn't your family co-sign? He said, hey, I ain't spoke to my mom in many years. I don't like the way she handles situations.
She won't change, so I quit speaking to her. He said his sister, he just didn't want to get into it.
Trailer homes literally have multiple bedrooms, actual door plumbing, space to breathe, privacy. You're not parenting inside a shoebox. Privacy, so you're not parenting inside a shoebox, and they cost significantly less than renting most houses. And yet, Stephanie refused the idea like someone handed her a spoiled carton of milk. She said something about drainage, something about RVs, something so confusing it made it painfully clear. She had no idea what a trailer actually is. She genuinely thinks trailers don't have plumbing, which might be the funniest and saddest part of this entire situation. Trailers have indoor plumbing. The motel barely has working air. She doesn't even research the option. Did not Google, did not scroll, did not even ask ChatGPT. She just dismissed it completely while sitting in a motel room where the air quality feels like microwaved cigarette smoke mixed with old carpet sadness. She talks about comfort, security, giving her kids space, and then rejects the fastest, easiest, most beginner-friendly path to getting out of homelessness. She wants the home, but not the homework. And this right here is exactly why her comment sections drag her like she owes them money. Because no matter what options exist, she always chooses the hardest, most chaotic, most emotionally exhausting path. If there is an easier way out, she will walk right past it and complain about how heavy the harder one is. Now let's talk about Drew, because his sudden switch up has everyone shook, confused, and leaning forward like, wait, where has this man been hiding? Besties, something snapped in Drew. And when I say snapped, I don't mean a tiny little oops, let me adjust my attitude crack. No, I mean this man went from being the reigning champion of the relax and do nothing Olympics, truly undefeated for years, to suddenly giving full-time 5-job superhero origin story energy in under 48 hours. It was like the motel air shifted and he repounded as a different character. On live, he wasn't just asking for a co-signer. He was begging, pleading, bargaining with the universe like he was at an emotional pawn shop. This man was one, please, I'm begging you, away from promising his left kidney. He started listing jobs like he was reading off a CVS receipt. He'll work DoorDash, which, funny enough, he could have done months ago. He'll work the night shift at Safeway. He'll pick up second part-time job, maybe even a third. Because why stop now? And suddenly Stephanie will also get a job the moment she's done breastfeeding. Oh, now she's working? Wow, stunning development. And then he said he'd sell the PS5. The PS5, guys, the sacred gaming relic, the emotional support console. He said he'd not care about it anymore, which was my first clue that something was seriously wrong.
So the most recent lives from Stephanie Thompson from the Resilient Jenkins, who calls herself a Jenkins, but she's not a Jenkins. Her boyfriend is a Jenkins, and possibly her children and his son, but she's not a Jenkins. I know it's very confusing. Please stay with me. But if you guys don't know who this is the family of 7 that lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. They went viral on TikTok and they got evicted from their apartment for non-payment of rent and pretty much now live in a motel room. Yeah. They've almost lived there for a year now. More recently, it's concerning that the way Stephanie looks. Now, Drew just looks tired. And a lot of people can say maybe she is just tired too. She's a mom. Most of her kids go to school. She has time to relax a little bit when her kids are sleepy. Like, you're a mom. You chose to have those kids. Deal with it. Anyways, that's neither the point. But Drew does look tired. I mean, dude works a nighttime job. And he most likely is a very tired dude. Like, I mean, I can imagine all the kids are also tired because you don't sleep very well in a studio like motel room with 7 people living in it. I'm sorry, but you don't. But it's concerning because I know a lot of people speculate rug use with the Resilient Jenkins, and especially Stephanie and Drew, because there is past rug use in their history. But more recently, Stephanie's face just shows it. Like, even if that is just Mary Jane, even if that is just gardening, that's an unhealthy level because she's using that to cope with the situation that she's currently in and still not taking accountability for being a parent for her children. Again, this is abuse because every day these children not only do not have a roof over their head, that they have their own space, they also are subjected to the rug use of any kind. They don't sleep at night, obviously, like I said. They barely get clothes that fit them. And you can't tell me, and I've said this before, you can't tell me that she has individual time with each and every one of those children and enjoys it because, again, she's tired and she's on rugs and she's depending on them, quite obviously. So when everybody tells me like, oh, stay out of their business, well, she puts this all online. I want to remind you guys of that. She puts all of this online and expects nobody to have an opinion about her neglecting her children that she brought into this world. It goes for Drew too, because he's doing the same shit. I really hope they get a place where those kids can have their own space, but it doesn't look very bright for the future right now if she's refusing to work, because in this economy, you need 2 incomes, especially for that size of household.
Then the cherry on top, he said he'd install it permanently in the kids' room if they got the house. Not in his room, not in the living room, no, the kids' room. As if the PS5 placement was the final puzzle piece keeping them homeless. So of course the internet sat up and went, why now? Why didn't he have this energy 6 months ago? Why not 9 months ago? And then, oh, but the internet remembered something very, very important. The kind of detail that suddenly makes the entire puzzle snap together like a cheap plastic toy. Drew has a court hearing in February. And not just any hearing. Nope. Desiree, Dishon's mother, is petitioning for full custody. Full, as in not shared, not partial, not let's be civil, but full. And if you remember the last hearings when she was only asking for visitation, the judge basically sat Drew down and gave him a list entitled Things a Responsible Parent Should Already Be Doing. And it included find stable housing, provide stability, financially support your child, and stop raising Dishon in a motel room that could double as a crime documentary backdrop. So now, with full custody on the line, suddenly Drew is the most ambitious man alive. Suddenly, this man is ready to work 3 jobs, sell the PS5, rewrite his life, rearrange the stars, and be all before February. Because if he goes into that courtroom still homeless, still living in a motel, still showing 0 progress, oh, it's over. The judge will not blink. And that is why the sudden energy makes sense. That is why the desperation is oozing out of his pores. That is why he's throwing around promises like a confetti. This custody theory is the only explanation that fits. Because otherwise, what magically changed? Did the motel bed whisper motivation into his ear one night? I don't think so. But listen, regardless of the reason, at least someone in that motel is showing effort. Someone is sweating, panicking, planning. Because Stephanie, she's over there blaming the universe, the comments, the reviewers, the timing, the wind, the moon phases, literally everyone except the 2 people who created this situation in the first place. Right now as we speak, and I want you to picture this clearly. Nothing has changed, not a single thing. The kids are still in the motel, eating, sleeping, living, and breathing inside that one cramped space. There is no confirmed new home, not even a we're close or a final steps update. There is only an application floating around somewhere on someone's desk, and a whole lot of public hope. Hope that, quite frankly, is doing more work than Stephanie and Drew combined. And look, if that's a very generous if, everything goes perfectly, maybe they get approved before Thanksgiving. Maybe the kids finally get actual bedrooms and not corners of a motel room separated by vibes and a suitcase. But worst case, this was all for attention. All noise, all smoke, all content, and nothing changes, nothing. The motel remains home, the excuses remain endless, the cycle repeats. Because Stephanie, she keeps posting, she keeps blaming everyone around her, the haters, the landlords, the commenters, the planets, the retrogrades, literally everyone except the 2 adults responsible for making decisions. She keeps crying victim, keeps playing the sympathy violin so loudly that even the strings are tired, keeps weaponizing tears like it's her brand strategy. She says negativity is the reason she doesn't get brand deals, but bestie, let's be honest, your content is messy, inconsistent, chaotic, and looks like it was storyboarded 5 minutes before going on. She literally asks her audience, what should I make content about? As if she's not the one calling this her full-time job while bragging that she makes more than most of us. If that's true, then where is the effort? Where is the professionalism? Where is the upgrade? And then the part that really sends me, she has the audacity to attack people who are actually doing their jobs. People who are trying to protect homeowners from getting trapped in tenant chaos. People who review hundreds of applications a week. People who have to cross-check, verify, double verify, and make sure the landlord doesn't end up crying into their mortgage. And Stephanie labels them feet draggers. Meanwhile, her own credit history looks like the opening scene of a disaster movie. Full explosions, smoke, collapsing structures, sirens in the background, and she's mad that someone did not rush to approve it. The irony is insane, unbelievably insane. So now we're left with one big, painful question. When will Stephanie finally take accountability? Because at this point, the reviewers aren't the problem. The application system isn't the problem. The negativity isn't the problem. The choices are. And honestly, I don't even know what to think about anymore. What do you guys think? Because this might be one of the wildest, most bizarre, self-inflicted situations the internet has ever witnessed. Let's discuss in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe to stay updated because besties, something tells me this story is nowhere near over.